Hi, I'm Praneeth, and welcome to my show, The Active Hour, where we discuss health and fitness, nutrition, and the blueprint to enhance your vitality.
5% of companies ever make more than $1 million. And not all of those are profitable. They're like, I'm going to make an app. And I'm like, okay, well.
Balls of steel to just walk out.
We went to Mexico during the height of the cartel wars. That was enough money to not really have to work again. I could. Only requirement for making money is.
What the fuck? Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Oh, wonderful, Praneeth. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm beyond stoked to talk to you today. Tell me a little bit about your early years growing up in Verna. And you mentioned a lot of times that you were not born with a silver spoon, but then you rose to this high entrepreneurship with a lot of grit and energy and hunger to, prove yourself. So let's go back to your childhood days. Talk to me about the little Mike.
I had an amazing childhood. My mom was a lab tech. My dad was an English teacher. And we split time between Mesa, Arizona and northern Wisconsin, a little cabin up in the woods, no running water on a little lake. So I didn't have like a TV or phone or anything. We just spend 3 months every year running around up there trying to be Huckleberry Finn and then come back to Mesa, Arizona, which is like just American suburbs. So I had a very just beautiful childhood, very protected and encouraged to do anything and everything. I was really into music and songwriting and I guess just like a little bit of everything, got to try all of it. And school wasn't very difficult for me. And so I kind of, towards the end, didn't pay as much attention to it. But I always got to be a snowbird, like someone who got to migrate between the seasons. And I just wanted to keep doing that as an adult. And that really shaped a lot of what I wanted. So the constraint for like what I was going to do with my life, like had to include like I got to leave during the summers or leave during the winters and just get to be in two places. I think that's one of like the most incredible life hacks there is that you get to find two great places. You get two sets of networks. You get to just not get seasonally depressed about anything. You get a fresh start every 6 months where you get broken out of a routine. And so that was really amazing. And so there's not a lot of things you can do besides maybe being a teacher that would allow you to be a nomad like that, but still have some amount of roots. And that's kind of how I ended up on entrepreneurship.
And you mentioned about songwriting, music. What music did you play? What instruments did you play? And what kind of songs did you write? And what's your favorite genre?
Yeah. I think when you're growing up, the part of the American dream is what gets presented to you as modern day nobility. And that's our celebrities, right? Our actors and our musicians and our artists are the ones who are really celebrated, at least when I was growing up, our athletes. And so you kind of, as a child, you don't realize you can do anything. You just see these few options and you're like, well, I should try to pursue one of these things because that means I've made it as a human and I've got some sort of, like a 3-month learning curve. Where you're just like not going to be able to do the thing at all. Like your fingers won't work. You won't be able to do the chords. And all of a sudden it'll like flip in your brain. And you're like, oh, I can do this. And then like within 6 months, you can play like 80% of the songs that you love.
Fuck yeah.
And,
that's awesome.
That's because with what I grew up with, which was like somewhere between like 60s music that my dad loved and the alternative rock that I grew up with. And so it was somewhere in between there. And after college, I dropped out of college for a couple of years, started a rock band that didn't work out, went back, graduated, started a new rock band. And turns out nobody cared, right? And like, that's pretty standard. You go out, I was on food stamps, I was in subsidized housing, trying to survive off of like $4,000 or $5,000 a year as a musician. And it just sort of hit me one day, like, why do I want to do this? I started seeing people who were successful in music, and I didn't really want their lives. So it just wasn't working. Like I was getting pretty constant feedback that nobody cared, right? I was happy with the music. And then I was like, okay, if I like the music I'm making, but nobody else does, this is not going to work. And I sold all the guitars that I had to start the first company because I literally had no money. And I had to sell some furniture just so I could pay the rent. And, it was intense.
my friends and I, while growing up in India, we were obsessed with rock music from 80s, 70s band. And the obsession was so intense that we thought these were like the fucking gods. And we had all posters of Guns N' Roses, The Doors, and Poison. And my mom used to,
80s. Okay.
yeah, my mom used to come and tear those things apart. Like, who the fuck are these drug addicts? Because back home in India, it's not that. My parents are kind of very traditional, and they're looking at me having posters of some guy drinking and then smoking and all that stuff. And my mom used to get so scared. Who are these guys? And then I know, unfortunately, I did not play, but I've always wanted to learn guitar and do something, but I'm still trying to see how I can do that. But I never got a chance. I tried my best. In fact, after I moved to the States, one of the first things I did was buy a guitar and then try to learn online. But I don't know, it's just not possible. I think it's very easier.
Very possible.
Oh, really? Yeah, because I tried from YouTube, tried to learn some stuff. Okay.
I just go hire.
Yeah.
I mean, go hire. Go take like 10 guitar lessons, and you'll have. It's like a 3-month learning curve where you're just like not going to be able to do the thing at all. Like your fingers won't work. You won't be able to do the chords, and all of a sudden it'll like flip in your brain, and you're like, oh, I can do this. And then like within 6 months, you can play like 80% of the songs that you like. The only requirement for making money is that I can have freedom of time and freedom of place. And then from that, with most stuff is you try it and you can't do it. You cannot participate. The learning curve is too strong. And then most people give up. But everything I've ever done with entrepreneurship, I knew nothing about the thing. And then just plowed forward until I figured it out. Like this extreme confidence that like, if this guy can do it, I can do it. And it's just kind of a matter of figuring the thing out. So I think a requirement for entrepreneurship is this perhaps overinflated confidence, right? Or it's like, I can do it. And you do that enough times and you have this track record behind you. It's like, well, I solved everything else before me. Or the things that I didn't solve, like, I didn't really want to do those anyways. But then you just keep taking on bigger and bigger challenges with maybe some naivete. But it's really exciting to go learn those things too.
Very true. Yeah. And then somehow I always started on YouTube, but never really moved forward. Then I tried asking anyone if I could find some input, somebody. I'm still trying to figure it out. Not that I couldn't learn in India. All my friends, a couple of them were like inbuilt musicians. They could play piano, they could play flute, XYZ. And then the dude just started playing guitar. And then I'm like, dude, you don't even know how to play. How are you playing? So I don't know. It just came, So anyways, yeah. And then you spoke about playing music as a part of your income and stuff like that. So I think your very first job was a DJ, right?
Yeah, I had been pursuing music because I thought that was like my purpose, right?
Okay.
I think in college I was really indoctrinated that the thing I did to make money was like the reason I was on earth, which is a lot to put on a young man in his 20s, that you have to both know and be able to achieve the thing that's going to bring you purpose and meaning and status and identity and income. And quite frankly, you're just with that level of experience, you're not worthy to figure out any of those things, right? You're arrogant enough to think that you're going to be able to compete with a worldwide competition of amazing people, and that you just have something to truly offer at that level. It's super difficult, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of an unfair pursuit. And so after giving up on that, I really reevaluated how I was going to approach making money. And I decided to strip away all those other things of meaning and status and validation. I was just like, I'm just going to get free first. So that's the only requirement for making money, is that I can have freedom of time and freedom of place. And then from that position, from an overflowing cup of self-sustainability, I'm going to then start looking for those higher order Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? But the first step was just get free first. So I started picking out jobs because I have no skills, right, that are marketable. So I started picking out jobs that I could do or learn how to do that would provide me with the ability to live anywhere and then choose my own schedule. So freedom of time, freedom of place. And so I came up with like real estate agent, DJ for like weddings and things, personal trainer, masseuse, hot air balloon pilot. And I started pursuing all of these things at the same time, kind of seeing which one would be interesting, or if I could somehow combine the incomes of all these. we were out there. We were getting lost. 2009, just like the worst time to try to get into real estate. I think I sold like
with all the recession and everything,
two houses in a year. But I learned how to DJ weddings. I didn't know how to do that before I got hired. And I'm doing that, and the guy I'm working for is like the first like solo on. Like, all right, well, sure, let's sell one. We'll make a website, and maybe we'll sell 10 of these a year. That would be pretty amazing at like $10,000 or $15,000. Had this idea that you had to have an MBA to start a business, or you needed a ton of money, and all these limiting beliefs I was running into that he was conquering. So it was super inspiring. Anyways, so I'm running these weddings, and we start adding a photo booth to the weddings, and I'm running those as well as DJing. And I realized that we're charging the same amount. It's $1,000 for me to DJ, and it's $1,000 to run this photo booth. One of those requires a ton of skill, and one of them doesn't. So I saw that there was the ability to scale that. Like anybody could run the photo booth. Very few people could be a really good DJ. And that's when it hit me that I should maybe start a photo booth company. So my best friend and I started designing one that would, instead of an hour to set up, it would take 3 minutes. That any idiot could run it. Like all you have to do is plug it in. The one that we were using was really complicated. It took like an hour. Constantly break, take really bad photos. So yeah, we just kind of like, this is what we want. It's got to take amazing photos. It's got to be idiot proof, and it's got to fit in the back of a Nissan Sentra instead of a giant van. So not knowing anything about carpentry or engineering or any of that stuff, we built one in my living room out of like plywood. And we did Groupon back in the day. If you guys remember what Groupons were, it was so we did like 50% off of a photo booth rental. Before we even had the photo booth built, or before we had a website. And we sold like 20 events, which was that plus selling my music equipment was enough to buy the photo booth and build it, right? Build it from the ground up. And that one turned into 4, turned into 10 photo booths. And then I was like, oh, we have a business. This is amazing. Yeah. After that, we started getting all these requests because the photo booth, I see a lot of entrepreneurs want to jump right to the last thing, or like, I'm going to make an app. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to raise $10,000. Why don't you start with a service company? And 3-month motorcycle trip through Mexico at the time. And I was realizing that was pretty difficult to manage people when you're in the jungle with no cell phones or internet. We were out there, we were getting lost. And I realized I wanted to keep pursuing more and more freedom of time and place, and not having to like run the events or manage people. And so I was like, we need to shift from a service company to a product. Right. And selling the photo booth as a business could be that product, because there was a lot of just inbound demand. It hadn't even occurred to me until like the 10th person asked. Like, all right, well, sure. Let's sell one. We'll make a website, and maybe we'll sell 10 of these a year. That would be pretty amazing at like $10,000 or $15,000. But we sold 10 that first month.
And you also have this, I would say, grit, determination, balls of steel to just walk out after you build something.
Professional carpenters or anything like that. So the first ones didn't work out that well. And we had to replace them. But we ended up finding a manufacturer in Wisconsin, not too far from us, that they kind of made, arcade games. And so this wasn't a big shift for them. So we had started having them make these, and they turned out just beautiful, very professional. And we ended up selling, I think over like 4 or 5 years, like 1,000 photo booth franchises.
That's awesome.
So yeah, super exciting. And it was a next level up skill from doing a service to a product. And that's when it started to occur to me that there are levers or gears or levels, I should say, to business. And the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to be self-employed, right? You're going to have one photo booth that you run, right? Yeah. And then you can go up once you've mastered that and have a service business. And so we had like 10 photo booths that other people ran and we managed, right? But we owned them all. And then the next level up is a product. And then the one after that is a company that makes products. You have lots and lots of products. And then the one after that is you just build companies. And then finally, you're like just investing. You get other people to go start that. And at each of those levels, you have like a 10 or 100x leverage on your time and your capital and your energy. Yeah. But the skills required to do that are the same. You have to get like 10 or 100 times better, more experience, better strategy, better ideas, better everything, right? So you really can't, it's difficult to skip steps. I see a lot of entrepreneurs want to jump right to the 5% of companies ever make more than $1 million. And not all of those are profitable, right? Company, and the lessons are all the same, like sales, marketing, and managing people. Like those skill sets, the foundation of those are the same at the very bottom as they are at the top. They just become more complex. That's all. So I would never recommend anybody to go get an MBA. Like there's nothing you're going to learn in that you couldn't learn from starting a $20,000 business. And if you can't make that profitable, you shouldn't get in business, right?
Yeah, very true. And you mentioned being a DJ and then selling the photo booths on Groupon. And can you talk about your Amazon products that you've built so much? And I feel that when people grow up, they leave kind of footprints on everything they do later. And I think you're someone who handles failures very exceptionally. And you also have this, I would say, grit, determination, balls of steel to just walk out after you build something. Can you tell a little bit more about this process where you build something so big and you've built almost like 5 multi-million-dollar companies and you just managed to walk out because you somehow connect freedom to entrepreneurship? So can you talk a little bit more about that?
I think the answer to all 3 of those questions is the same. Everything I'm doing is on the focus of personal growth. So when I start a company, I'm doing it because I'm really excited about all the things I would have to learn. I'm very curious. I get it. I feel alive when I'm learning and pursuing something new, right? And in the doing of that, it requires personal growth. So I really just think all the meaning and purpose, those are just other words for growth, right? We're going to experience those feelings when we're like reaching for something. Just the horizon of the unknown is where I'm going to find growth and purpose and meaning and excitement, right? So I'm trying to move up that path of more leveraged and difficult and higher skill required businesses because that's what's required for me to grow. If I just kept doing the same thing over and over, I would stagnate and eventually those businesses would become boring and I would lose interest and stop paying attention and they would die. That's happened, right? And in those 5 companies that I started that have done multi-million, there's probably another 20 that like just lost money or like broke even at best. And so when you understand the numbers of some of these things, these numbers aren't exact, but I think it's around like 5% of companies ever make more than $1 million. And not all of those are profitable, right? So when you have that in mind, you know that a lot of the stuff you're going to do is going to fail. So you're like the willingness to go try stuff and use it as a source of learning, and that being the first objective, and you're protecting your downside risk as much as possible. So how many lessons can I learn for as little failure? I had never ridden a motorcycle before. I don't speak Spanish. We went to Mexico during the height of the cartel wars. It's insanely gotten a lot of validation back that there's inbound. We are flowing downstream. I do not like grit and just grinding and pushing something uphill. Like I'm not listening. That's what I tried to do with music, right? I was like, I'm going to go make my thing and people like it. I listen to feedback nonstop, both verbally and just through people's actions, which is like, are people giving me money for this? Or is it solving a real problem? Is there demand that exceeds my ability to supply it? That's the things I want to pursue. It's very difficult to know that in advance. And you put stuff out there and you see if it works, and then you iterate. You make things a little bit better every single day, and that's how you get things to grow. And sometimes most of the time, you cannot make that happen. It's just not a thing people want or the way they want it. And as I've gotten better, my failures have gotten smaller just because I've been stacking up experience, right? I have a better idea. It's like when you're playing a video game, right? Once you've conquered a level and then you go to the next one and then you die on that one, you don't go all the way back to the beginning. You're there. And so you get to try that next level again until you break through, and then you're easy, boring, don't even have to do it. That's why I build things. That's why I move on from things. That's why I continue to make new ones, because the horizon of the unknown is where I'm going to find growth and purpose and meaning and excitement. Just become better at this game. That's all this really is a game.
And what did you build after the photo booths? So
part of like this game is once you like have a profitable company and you crack over $1 million, you start to get this access to peers at that level. And so you start getting alliances and friendships and mentorships that were just not available to you. People want to hang out with people at their level or like above them, right?
Yeah.
The hard truth. So once you are successful, then all of a sudden this like invisible group opens the door. I'm not exaggerating. Like there's all kinds of masterminds and groups of people that have made something of themselves, and then you get invited. And that was one of my main goals. Like I was surrounded by artists and musicians who did, which is all broke. And I was like, I need to start hanging out with people that have made something. How do I do that? Why would they want to hang out with me? So that was part of like organizing that motorcycle trip. I was like, what's the coolest thing I can think of? I had never ridden a motorcycle before. I don't speak Spanish. We went to Mexico during the height of the cartel wars. It's insanely dangerous. I would never do it again. I would not recommend it. But boy, was it super fun to share those stories. And then, like that was enough money to not really have to work again. I could just, interesting. And as the business started growing, I became more interesting. So I got invited to this mastermind group of young men doing online businesses. And we start taking these trips together. And we're in Whistler on a ski trip. And my really good friend, Matt, who, 15 years later, we're still buddies. But he was like one of the first guys on Amazon. And we're on the ski lift and he's just telling me how it's done. And at the time, like I had no idea you could sell stuff on Amazon. Nobody was doing it. And he was like, he just taught me how he did it. He later went on to start this course called Amazing, and he taught like 50,000 people how to get on Amazon.
Wow, nice.
But I was like one of the first people to like learn what the hell he was talking about. So we went and started a couple of companies that were Amazon only brands, and we would design products. And we just kind of used the same model of looking at where there was a ton of demand and where the offering wasn't that good. And we looked at like all the negative reviews and like, okay, there's an opportunity here where the product isn't that good, but the demand's really high. How can we make this product not have any of the problems that people are giving it 1 and 2 and 3 stars on? So we started building things around that. And we had a couple that just hit, I think we launched like 20 different products and brands, and like 4 or 5 of them were successful. And 2 or 3 of those did over $1 million, right?
Wow.
One of them did $8 million a year. So
that's amazing.
And we got to really enjoy that, that ride up as Amazon started to double. And then we just happened to be there first. Yeah. And so we had 20, 30,000 5-star reviews on our stuff before other people could be competitors. But by the time we left, it became quite clear to me that the game was going to get harder because the opportunity was so well known. By the end, I think we had like 400 or 500 competitors. So and they would copy everything about us. They use our same manufacturer, and we're like, okay, this is just. And we went from selling like our mat from like we had a standing mat that you'd have at a kitchen, right? We were the number one seller in the country for like 4 years. And we went from selling it at like $70 a piece to like $38 a piece just to maintain that. Yeah. Right. And then costs of everything. I was like, I do not want to keep doing this. I don't own my platform. I don't own the customer. Anybody can knock me off. This has become a commodity. Right. So that's when we started to sell those companies. that was enough money to not really have to work again. I could just, And I thought that was it. I thought we would be done after that. Because that's sort of the dream, right? You make enough money, you never work again. You get fucked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't qualify it as fuck you money anymore, right? Like with inflation. And my, my ambitions have changed, right? A couple $1 million 10 years ago in my mind was like way better than the food stamps I was on. I can live like a king forever. But, then you're like, well, I want to buy a second house. I want a bigger house. I want to buy a boat. I want to buy a sports car. I want to travel to all these places and bigger. You have lifestyle. And so, okay, how am I going to continue expanding my experiences in the world if I don't have income? So I decided to start an investment fund and put that money to work and put, a little bit of family and friends to work. And that's a whole new skill set. It's much different to invest in other people's companies rather than build your own. And I just don't find it very interesting. We deployed a couple $1 million, but not having the control and having other people maybe not tell you the truth all the time or execute the way that you would. You're basically paying for somebody else's education. Nobody paid me to learn. So I just don't think sometimes the incentives are aligned. Anyways, they're all doing fine, but it just, every day I started to wake up like I have nothing to do. We deployed all the money in a month. And so I was like, there's nothing to do but sit around and wait for years. Not interesting. You have to be growing. You have to be taking on new challenges and doing something. Otherwise you just you can't golf every day. You can't go for hikes and I've read these books. You just can't do it all day, every day. It took me a while to undo this idea that I was not going to retire. I have to go find something that really lights me up. So that was why I did all this reading. To try to find why am I here? What am I doing? And at the end of the day, I guess I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I constantly want to be solving a problem.
Building something.
Building. And I need to build businesses to build myself, I think, really at the end of the day, have a reason to put the reps in, have a reason to expand my knowledge. And I didn't want to go back and do the same thing. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs that have success at something and they stay at that level and they just repeat it. And I think that most people don't like that. It's boring, right? You have to be taking on a bigger challenge. And so I knew to take on the next level, I needed to level up. So hence, I put a ton, several years into trying to become wiser and more skilled so I could start seeing bigger opportunities. Yeah. And so I decided I wasn't going to take on a company unless I was going to be really, really personally interested and motivated for at least a decade on the subject, where I could become a true expert at it. And that I thought there was the ability to do $100+ million in it. Otherwise, I would just be repeating myself.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And instead of trying to force something into the world, I just started paying attention to my attention. And where am I just naturally curious? I'm reading about it on my own. I'm thinking about it. And that's when this concept of longevity really started to pop up in my head around 2019, 2020. And I was just reading hours a day, researching just for my own benefit. How do I slow aging down? Very complicated. Not a simple answer to that at all. I do think we have some ability to do it, 10 or 20%. Anyways, so I started putting all these supplements together and putting my own stack of supplements together. It's taken me 30 minutes a day. It was 20, 30 pills and powders, and it was $500 a month. And I was happy to do that, because I thought it was the things that we were doing were effective. But then my friend, she got really sick. She got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And so she's trying to take all these pills and powders, and it just gets to the point where she can no longer physically get herself to swallow these pills anymore.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, she's basically fully recovered now. It's been 5 years, which is great because that's not
awesome. Yeah,
the outcome that most people have, unfortunately.
I know. Yeah.
So that was a great relief. Anyways, it really hit me then that I could turn all of this stuff into a shake. I could curate something that people could trust by independently sourcing all of these ingredients to make sure they were from the most expensive manufacturers of each one. I really was skeptical of getting into the supplement market because it's mostly marketers. People don't make the things that they sell, which is fine, which is fine when it's like a floor mat. But so I spent the next like 2 or 3 years really getting a deep understanding of what we were trying to build. And I just set the standards like, this has got to be like the Rolex of supplements. It's got to exude trust. And so how do I do that? I personally source everything. We manufacture in a facility that I built and can oversee, and I built the team. All we do is this one thing. And that has made the product so much better than anything else available, both just in efficacy and like you can taste it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the only way I think you can really build trust in that space. So that was a requirement for me, that I was going to make something that was unequaled in quality and there would never be any compromises. And we wouldn't be making insane claims or anything like that. Just really try to make something truly valuable. And I think we've really done that. And we get better every single week, because we have full control over everything that, and I just refuse to compromise on anything. So we're growing slower than what we could, just because of logistical and supply constraints. Yeah, that's been the journey for the last 5 years. We launched, the company's called Momentum. You can go to momentumshake.com and check it out. But we launched it about 2 years ago. And at every step of the way of producing this, I'm looking for validation. So I get, I tell a friend about it and they're like, give it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a huge. And so every time we do a podcast or like tell people are like, this is solving my problem. Amazing. And so that encourages me to like do the next level of investment, to expand, to do all those things and get, inbound. And if we weren't having that, I would try to make the product better. I'm always trying to make the product better.
Yeah, it's such great information. And talking about Momentum, you mentioned there were extremely high, good quality ingredients that's going into the shake, right? And can you tell what those ingredients are? I know one of it is NAD+, and you also use like good quality mushrooms, right?
Sure. Mushrooms is the exception to the rule in the shake. So the rule that I made is that instead of trying to find a bunch of exotic ingredients that would change the way that your body works, and like maybe some mouse study had like a semi-positive result, I really started with first principles. I was like, what is your body made out of? And what is declining as you get older? Let's start there as a foundation, right? So your body is made out of protein and amino acids and collagen, hyaluronic acid, magnesium and all these minerals and vitamins. Those are all things that your body is made out of or is, commonly deficient in. And so I just looked at what the perfect dose, the perfect form, the most expensive version of each of those things is, and then put that in the shake. So the one exception would be mushrooms, because I really wanted something to help your mind repair itself. And that's one of the very few things with a ton of evidence that it can have neurogenesis, help your brain repair itself. But everything else, like the NAD, that's something that's in everybody's body that our body makes, but we lose about 50% of it as we get older. For those that don't know, NAD is a molecule that's essentially like the gasoline for your cells, right? And so we lose the ability to make energy with our mitochondria as we get older. So if we can supplement that and at a full dose, you can get it back to your levels that you had when you were 20. It's super effective. And the downstream effects of your cells having enough energy is like not just one thing, but thousands of things. So that's the kind of foundational part. I want to give your body what it needs to run. I want to give your body the raw materials it needs to repair itself. So like if you lift weights and you go to the gym and you tear your muscles through lifting weights, if you don't give your body the protein to repair that, all you've done is destroy your body.
Exactly.
You have to give your body the raw materials to fix itself. And that's the foundation of the shake. Is there's about 20 really important things. There's hundreds of important things, but there's 20 that matter more, that we lose more as we get older. It's all put together in one shake in the most elite form, and it tastes good. I think the other big insight that I had is I'm really trying to solve not just a biological problem. I'm trying to solve a psychological problem. Most people do not need more information or more things to do. So I wanted to make something that was so delicious and easy that people desired to do it, that eating healthy was easier than eating poorly, right? We eat poorly, exactly, not because it feels great, but because it's like easier to grab fast food or a protein bar, a bowl of cereal in the morning. But if I can put a shake together that like you kind of crave and it delivers this elite nutrition, that's the solution, is overcoming human behavior to help people get that result.
And you mentioned about the MS battle that your girlfriend was going through, and I'm glad she recovered. Did this idea stem from that emotion that you went through at that point to understand? First of all, maybe just explain what longevity is. I mean, I know, but for my audience, what longevity is, what mitochondria is, how is that linked to the longevity, and explain more about how the shake is going to improve your mitochondria and then
right. So if you remember from like high school biology, you have a cell, and inside of your cell you have a thing called the mitochondria. It's the powerhouse of your cell. It's the engine, right? It creates all the energy from both your food and all these other enzymatic reactions like NMN or NAD, I should say. And so that's the foundation, right? If your cells do not have the power to function, everything else is going to start breaking. Right. There's probably 8 or 9 things that are systemic to aging. Another one might be your vascularity. The veins in your body literally start filling with calcium, and then they can't deliver the nutrients and the oxygen and the energy to those parts of your body, right? So we want to try to reduce the calcification of your veins. So like, why does that happen? It happens because you have too much calcium in your blood and not enough vitamin D or vitamin K or magnesium to take that calcium and then deliver it to your bones where it belongs. And so then it just ends up staying in your veins, and then your veins start to turn into a rock. So when you're looking at what's the number one killers of everything, you can say it's diabetes or heart disease or cancer, but really these are just symptoms of aging. Your body breaking down faster than it can repair itself. And those are the symptoms that you end up having a heart attack because your body wasn't functioning well enough to process and get rid of the calcium or the cholesterol and do its job, right? And it's a negative feedback loop. When your body is not operating well, it starts to operate even worse, right? Which makes sense. Yeah. So we're trying to solve these problems before the aging happens. And there's a zillion things to do, but nutrition is important. Like that's one of the foundations. The other are obviously sleep and exercise and stress. And if you guys are watching me, like I didn't sleep very well last night. But yeah, all of these things are essentially repair, right? It's difficult to reduce the amount of damage that we have. Just living causes damage. So when the mitochondria, back to that, when it creates energy, it creates oxidation, and these little oxygen molecules, like you leave an avocado out and it turns brown. That's oxidation, right? So just the very process of creating energy creates oxidation in your body. It's like the exhaust from the engine, and the mitochondria is the engine. And that's fine. Our body can create antioxidants and, pair up with those oxygen molecules and then make them safe. But just like in an engine, as it gets older, it operates worse and it creates more exhaust, pollutes more. Yeah. So do you see the problem? That's where this negative feedback loop happens. So your metabolism, that's what this churning energy from food into, and then it creates this exhaust, this pollution in your body. You can try to reduce that a little bit, right? By having it operate better. You can try to reduce it by lowering the amount of stress that you have in your body. You can try to reduce the problem of what the problem is. When you have pollution in your body, you create inflammation, which is an immune reaction. So you have these immune cells moving all around your body, antioxidants moving all around your body, and then trying to capture this pollution. Now, I have a cup here, right? If I have this much pollution, the cup is only 10% full for those listening. That's not a problem, right? Your body can handle that. When I increase the inflammation to be right to the tip top of that glass, that means that's what inflammation is, right? Your body is working overtime to try to reduce this pollution in your body. And just one more thing, an allergy attack, a stressful event, you eat something that you're slightly allergic to, maybe it's gluten or dairy, or whatever it is, it will push it over, and now your body is overflowing with inflammation. And that's what autoimmune reactions are. There's so much pollution in your body that your immune system can no longer tell what the pollution is and what you are. And so it just attacks everything. So your body starts attacking your own body. So in the case with Stephanie and her MS, this was during the height of COVID. She was insanely stressed out. Her business was a dance studio. As you imagine, a dance studio during COVID was a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
Super stressed out about it. She's sick. And then just one more stressful event comes and she has this immune attack. Her bucket was overflowing.
Yeah.
And she woke up one morning and she was just blind in her left eye. Her immune system had attacked her. It had attacked her optic nerve and just essentially squeezed it shut so it could no longer get oxygen or blood. And she went blind in her left eye. So she had to get a bunch of steroids to try to calm that inflammation down. And it took like 2 years. It took like a couple weeks before she could see again. And it's taken like 2-3 years before she could get back to like 95% of her vision in that left eye. But anyways, when we're talking about autoimmune or cancer or heart disease, these are symptoms, downstream effects of that very simple mechanism of too much inflammation in your body.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't repair it, and the damage accumulates over time. So we really want to focus on repair. Momentum Shake is all those raw materials so your body can repair itself. And then you have to work on reducing the amount of stress, the amount of junk food, the amount of pollution that you surround yourself through your air and your water. Those all add to your cup overflowing, right?
Yeah, very nice information. And I want to touch a little bit more on the inflammation and the stress, because I feel stress is the number one reason that all the things that you mentioned about can trigger. I've read and I've seen people go through heart attacks and cancer and everything. Like people who don't, most of them at least, they don't smoke, they don't drink, they don't do anything, but unfortunately they're attacked by this cancer or something. But I think drills down to the same reason: you're stressed and inflammation and everything. And I know to a certain degree that exercise and everything else can to decrease it. But from your perspective, what are other things that you can do in order to help with that inflammation and the stress levels?
So with cancer, we're all making cancer in our bodies all the time, but our immune system will find those deformed cells and eat them, right? But if you're super inflamed, your immune system can't find everything. It gets confused. It gets overwhelmed, right? There are things that pass through. So the lower we can keep the inflammation in our cup, the more effective our immune system is going to be. And so stress is important to monitor because your body can't tell the difference between like a fight with your, coworker or your wife and a disease very well. It creates a physiological response. And so when you have a bunch of immune cells moving around, the immune cells are part of the inflammation. Like your system's getting choked up and your body just is not functioning well. I think stress it's a very difficult thing to measure, but I would say it's probably as deadly as smoking or obesity. So I try really, really hard to make that my top priority is like, is this worth getting upset about? Is this worth feeling anxious or any of those things? So I'm constantly eliminating, like I'm trying to save my life, things that are not additive, not making me feel better in the world. If they're adding stress, they're gone. And so when I think about when I'm building a business, I really try to be ruthless about removing things that are stressful. It's just not worth it to me. I'd rather grow slower, or I'd rather not. I'd go after that opportunity and just really focus on the things that feel easy and obvious instead of forcing something to happen, because that's a cause of stress, doing things that just aren't fully aligned with that. And then the amount of food seems to be a big deal. The type of food does matter. Like if you're just eating super processed with a lot of pesticides and preservatives, your body doesn't know how to break that down and it just stays in you, right? And then your body, it's like extra energy to try to eliminate it with your immune system or your liver or all these things. You want to remove that negative stress from your body through what you eat. But the big thing seems to be the quantity of food. When I eat way too much, it affects my metabolism and my blood sugar, and my body has to work harder, creates negative stress.
Yeah. What do you eat in a day generally?
I'm trying to eat less, right? So I know that sounds simple, but it's really calories in, calories out is the 80-20 of that. And then what you eat matters, but like not as much as how much you eat. So I'm trying to eat less and only eat when I'm hungry. So I'll have for breakfast, I had a momentum shake and a cappuccino, and then maybe I'll have a light lunch, and then I'll have like a normal dinner, like with my family. And that's it. And I really try not to, I don't think about avoiding certain foods. I really try to get enough protein so I'm not counting calories. I'm counting meals and I'm counting protein. So the rule is you want to try to get 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight. That if you're overweight, don't eat, weight, right? So I'm 175 pounds. I want to be right around that. I want to be a low body fat percentage. I got a couple more percent to go to get to where I want to be. 18%. I want to be at 15%. So I got to drop like 7 or 8 pounds of fat and then gain 5 or 6 pounds of muscle. Be between 170, 175. I'm like a little over 5'10".
Nice, yeah. And are you traditionally doing strength training, lifting, and what kind of exercises do you usually do?
Yeah, weightlifting twice a week is what I try to shoot for. Sometimes it's just once a week. And that's fine too. Once a week will maintain your muscle mass. Twice a week will build it. 3 times may build it 5% more. 4 times, I think, is probably to the point where you're causing too much inflammation in your body. If you want to get, be a weightlifter and jacked and all that stuff, that's a different goal. I'm trying to live healthy and live better and longer, not be sore, not destroy my joints. The process of weightlifting is that you're causing micro damage to your muscles, and you don't want to have so much before you can repair it. So that 80-20 is like twice a week of lifting heavy in the 6 to 10 rep range, 2 or 3 sets. That's it, right? Yeah. And that's the stimulation of a positive amount of stress that signals to your body to start building better and repairing. So everything we're doing in longevity is increasing the amount of repair we have and increasing the stimulus to cause repair in specific areas. So exercise is so powerful because it sends a whole body signal that, hey, let's turn on the growth factors. Let's turn on the repair. We got to get bigger and stronger. Right. And that's incredible because if you don't do anything, your body will just kind of like get lazy and fall asleep and not do those repairs. Have you ever done acupuncture before?
No, but I've heard it's very helpful.
I haven't done too much of it. I just want to use it.
It was related to stress. It was off the roof. I'm like, what the fuck?
To create a specific signal. So if I told you to think about like the back of your bicep, you'd have to really like pay attention. But if I like put a needle in the back of your bicep, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's drawing attention for your body to exactly where you want to send repair, to send attention to release something that maybe was a knot. And that's the focus of that. So what exercise is doing, what sauna is doing, is it's creating a whole body response that is drawing attention to the places that need repair. And that's the body signal. So everything that works is a stimulus for repair at the end of the day. That's what all longevity protocols are just different forms of raw materials for repair or stimulus for repair.
Yeah. Very clear explanation. Regarding the inflammation, right, I'll tell you a funny story. So I loved exercise ever since I was growing up. My dad used to take me with him while he went on a run. So I got into running, and eventually I became a long distance runner, but never was into a serious weightlifting. But ever since COVID, I started lifting rigorously. And then I turned into a hybrid athlete where I was kind of doing some sort of cardio, run, bike, or swim 7 days a week, lifting 5 days a week. And I was doing that for 3-4 years. And then I started suddenly, I gained a lot of fat, barely built any muscle, reduced my endurance, my speed got lesser. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? And then I started doing more of it in order to say, oh, I think something's wrong. And then I did my research, and then I realized that it's the inflammation. Like you mentioned, my body was under so much fucking stress because exercising 2.5 hours a day. I was probably eating very less too, because once I gain a little bit fat, I'm like, oh shit, something's happening. And then I realized it's too much inflammation. Now I'm just exercising once a day. And then I started to take one whole day off, because it was very hard for me to take a complete rest because I've been exercising so much. Mm-hmm. But then now I start to feel a lot different. I feel more energized when I'm lifting. And I also am starting to see like muscle definition coming up, which I never saw in the last 4 years. And then I think all of this ties back to inflammation, too much stress and everything. Because I was not mentally stressed, but I think my body was physically stressed, which at least I'm glad I'm able to realize it now. Because when I did my blood test, I saw this couple of blood markers that was related to stress. It was off the roof. I'm like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. And then after I did my research, I realized all of this. So now I kind of understand everything that you're saying. So I would love to try the Momentum Shake. So where is it available?
MomentumShake.com.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It's about $5 a serving. If you try to put all this stuff together on your own, it'd be like $550 a month at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
And the way we do anything is how we do everything. So just like an example, like most companies are going to be putting in like a fake sugar and an artificial flavor, or even like a natural flavor, which just means it's not the real thing, because it's very inexpensive. So if they're trying to cut corners there, they're cutting corners everywhere. So an example of what we do is that we use real coconut sugar, just a little bit, nothing artificial. And then we actually, for our vanilla, we import beans from Madagascar and make our own vanilla extract. So it's like insanely expensive. We probably spend more on vanilla than most people spend on the whole time. So just that is the level that we're trying to create here. We're just trying to make it easy and delicious and make you feel good right away. But if you do it for 2, 3, 4 months, you're going to start seeing improvements in whatever needed to be repaired in your body, and you'll get that kind of focus.
And what's this priced at right now?
It's $75 a bag for 15 servings. So that's $5 a serving. It comes with free 2-day shipping if you buy 2 bags, and that's the subscription price. Yeah.
And how many iterations does it take for you to get this right, precise formula that you like? Then what was your experience when you first tasted it? And like, oh my God, fuck, this is the right one.
Dozens. Like I spent years and years researching every paper, talking to doctors, talking to manufacturers, meeting them in person. For every single ingredient that made the cut, I had to go interview 10 or 12 manufacturers to find what's the best form, what's the best version of each of these things. Like sometimes visiting the farms, right? Like I was in Ireland, visiting the farms out there because they have the best grass-fed whey protein in the world. It's the only place in the world that can have cows out on pasture 95% of the year. They can grow grass. Like Wisconsin is beautiful half of the year, right?
Yeah.
So like I showed you earlier, but like we got this beautiful grass out here.
So beautiful, man. Yeah.
But 4 months ago, that was snow. Ireland can do it year round. So I'm like out there meeting the cows. And that's the kind of level that we're trying to do for everything.
What is your advice to young entrepreneurs? Probably wants to start in this field of longevity, health, science, and in fact, any entrepreneurship. What would you advise these young wannabe entrepreneurs?
To start a longevity company, or to just be interested for themselves?
Just general, anything. Because based on your experience, you mentioned that there was barely any capital when you started. So how much capital do I need to have right now if I want to start any business? Okay, like example, let's take something in health and fitness and longevity. How much capital do I need to have, and how do I start?
I mean, if you're starting at the very bottom, I would start at the bottom of the value chain, which is to be an independent contractor, to be self-employed. You could start as like a fitness, personal fitness trainer or something like that. Something where you can have local expertise, right? You're not competing with people at a national brand. Like if you try to do what I'm doing, you're competing against me. You're not going to win. I'm sorry. But we were just in, Nashville or something. You could compete against other people just in that proximity, which is going to be way fewer people at a way lower talent level, which is great for you to start. When you're learning how to ski, you don't start on the double black diamonds, right?
Gotcha.
You want to start with low competition. All of these local service businesses are people that are very not good at the game of business. They're not good at marketing. Their websites are poor. They probably have way more demand than there is supply. So they don't even respond to customers. Like they got like 3 or 4 months booked. I tried to get my house painted last year and it was insane. It was like, I got quotes for like $75,000 to get the house painted on the outside. I'm like, are you insane? Like, they're like, oh, well, we can't even get to it this year, man. But this is next year's prices. So I was like, oh my God. So you want to move to a place where you radically improve your odds of success, because it's very hard. The odds are radically stacked against you. So start in that playground where you have more demand than supply, and the people supplying it aren't very talented, right? So that's usually where you want to start. And that stays the same throughout your journey. You have to go where there's more demand than supply. And then I want you to spend 10 times longer picking the thing than you do executing. 99% of success is picking the right thing at the right time. It's way more important. I have so many friends who are in businesses that it's just an uphill grind nonstop, and they just picked a bad business model. They picked a bad product where there was way too much competition. They couldn't actually make their thing much better or different, or it was hard. Like, don't do that. Pick the thing that feels easy and obvious, where there's, like no one could ever, supply enough for the demand. People are begging you. There's inbound demand. Like, you need to do this, right? Those are the things you want to move towards. You want to move downstream instead of uphill. And I think that's the way for everything. Your metaphor, it wasn't a metaphor. What you're talking about when you're weightlifting, the ethos of I just do more, I'll work harder, does not work. Yeah, it's not scalable, exactly. Right? You need to be moving towards the thing that is sustainable and the thing that feels easy. Lifting weights twice a week is much easier than lifting weights twice a day, right? And ironically, because you'll be able to do it longer without injuring yourself. It's a long-term thing, right? Everything we're trying to do is survive and advance. The first thing is survive, right? So if I lift weights super hard and exercise, 7 days a week, I'm going to injure myself, and then I won't be able to do it for the next 6-7 weeks. I'll lose the habit. But if I can do something slow and, make progress, and it feels like I'm not, forcing myself to do it, and I'm getting results, that's the pace that you want to move, so you can be there 3 years from now and have the body that you want. It's the same thing with business. Like, almost all my decisions go through the filter of, I'm going to do this for 10 years. If I can do this for 10 years, it's going to be wildly successful. That means my business has stayed alive. I've gotten better. And so the key to that is that I don't burn out. I don't run out of money. I don't, my business doesn't fall apart. That's why people fail, right? Just like I'm trying to stay alive a lot longer. Trying to keep a business alive is reducing the amount of inflammation and stress in your business so that you can survive long enough to be successful.
Understood. Yeah. Well, such great information. Well, thanks, Mike, for everything that you've laid it out here. Thank you for all the information, such great information. And your whole life is an inspiration. And well, I hope you continue to inspire everyone around you.
Well, thank you so much for the time, and everyone listening. I hope this was useful. Check out MomentumShake.com. You can email at Mike@MomentumShake.com if you need anything at all, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to put the link in the show notes so they can access it. Well, Thank you so much. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Active Hour podcast. We hope you loved the episode. If you did, please give us some love in the reviews. Guess what? No ChatGPT was used in the making of this episode. Until next time, bye!